to a special edition of the Gerety Talks as we talk to the winners of the Agency and Production Company of the Year by country. The Gerety Awards brings together some of the greatest creative leaders each year to look at work from a powerful perspective. The executive jury sessions that take place around the world each choose the Agency and Production Company of the Year from their country within the portfolio cut, which allows you to enter a single film up to 5 minutes long with 3 pieces of work from the past year. In 2023, the Gerety Awards held a jury session in Dubai, and Agency of the Year for the UAE was awarded to IMPACT BBDO. So today we welcome Ali Rez, Group CCO of IMPACT BBDO,
Hello.
Atiya Zaidi, CEO and CCO at BBDO Pakistan, and Joe Abou-Khaled, Regional ECD IMPACT BBDO Beirut, to talk about these campaigns. So thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Having us here.
Pleasure.
First of all, congratulations on your award. What does this recognition from the Gerety jury mean to you and the agency? Ali, would you like to start?
Sure, yes, I would love to. Look, all award shows are special and they all mean a lot to us. It's a privilege to be honored by your peers who are judging some of the best work around the world, and they select your work. It's always wonderful. Gerety Awards itself is extra special because of its jury setup. It is the only award show which has female jury members, only female jury members, I should say. And that brings a different lens to the judging process. And it's always good to test the work through that lens as well. And that's why it's a little extra special for us.
Great. So let's watch the reel first, and then we can talk about the campaigns.
Lebanon is collapsing.
The scale of the crisis for ordinary Lebanese people is evident everywhere you look.
It is out of petrol, internet, electricity, food, medicine. The coming 2022 elections, however, provide a glimmer of hope in providing some stability. But the current government, in a bid to hold on to power, has been making excuses to delay elections. Excuses such as the lack of paper and ink to conduct elections. So to defend democracy, An-Nahar, the newspaper of the people, decided to publish the country's much-awaited 2022 elections edition by not printing it. Instead, An-Nahar donated the paper and ink from the unprinted edition to print voting ballots.
تحت عنوان مطبعنا الجريدة لنطبع صوتنا للتاريخ، أن الصحيفة لم تصدر طبعتها الورقية اليوم وستقدم الورقة والحبر لطباعة جزء من مستلزمات انتخابات عام 2022.
تصير الانتخابات بأي طرق من الطرق لازم تصير الانتخابات.
Found at every newspaper distributor in Lebanon on February 2nd was an empty news rack with a message explaining our cause and a link to an online edition. Trucks delivered that day's entire supply of paper and ink to the government's printing associate. The non-existent issue went viral. We had sparked a movement which people joined to ensure that elections happen. Press, private, and recycling companies also supported the movements.
We will support this movement with all our resources. The elections have to happen on time.
Even election candidates spoke up for the cause. An-Nahar had revived hope amongst the Lebanese for true change to take place. And on May 15th, the elections took place as scheduled. For the first time, reformist newcomers and independent candidates broke into parliament, winning 25% of the country's parliamentary seats, honoring Lebanon's democratic traditions.
In Pakistan, the world's 5th most populous country, over 22.5 million children are out of school, most of them girls. Because of socioeconomic conditions and severe gender discrimination, parents often pull girls out of school.
वालिदैन अमूमन ये कहते हैं कि लड़कियों को पढ़ाई की ज़रूरत नहीं है, उन्हें खाना पकाना आना चाहिए और किस तरीके से घर की देखभाल करनी है ये आना चाहिए.
EBM wanted to change mindsets and persuade more parents to send their girls to school. So we turned news into breaking news.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम। आज के न्यूज़ सेगमेंट में हम आपको खुशामदीद करते हैं। साउथ कोरिया में होने वाली 56th एनुअल मीटिंग में एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक ने पाकिस्तान को मौशी सपोर्ट देने पर
For one night, millions across Pakistan tuned in to watch schoolgirls who could hardly read 3 years ago take over as news broadcasters, making women's education the headlines of the day. What started on a news channel spread across social and digital channels, starting much-needed conversations around educating girls. Each news broadcast ended with a powerful message.
हम आज ये खबर पढ़ सकते हैं क्योंकि 3 साल पहले हमारे लिए किसी ने ऐड किया हमें तालीमी याफ्ता बनाने के लिए।
With just a few minutes of reading the news, we have begun rewriting the future for millions of girls in Pakistan.
खबरों की दुनिया से आज के लिए बस इतना ही। अल्लाह हाफिज।
In Arabic, the word menopause does not exist. Instead, the historically patriarchal society call it the age of despair, choosing to term menopause as the end of a woman's usefulness, resulting in hundreds of years of women suffering and feeling worthless. Tena, the world's leading female incontinence pads maker, decided to correct this negative cultural stereotype with a mission to erase the term age of despair from the minds and dictionaries across the Middle East. We believe that men shouldn't be the ones to determine what menopause stands for. That decision should always be with the woman. And so, we ask the women of the Middle East what it means to them. A series of hard-hitting films featuring strong-minded women from the region expressing their feelings towards the age of despair launched the campaign, in which we reached out to women to help develop a new phrase. The Middle East's most popular singer joined in to create an anthem, and, in collaboration with the Middle East's largest online audio platform, the campaign turned into a movement that took over the region. Thousands of women suggested phrases for menopause, flooding our site with millions of comments. Until one phrase stood out: age of renewal. And then, change happened. The #1 Arabic dictionary in the region adjusted the term age of despair. Mainstream media started using our new phrase. Influential men supported the change, joining the movement. Thanks to this campaign, women in the region had found their voice and had spoken up on our platform to bring about a cultural shift on this previously taboo topic. We had successfully converted the age of despair into an age of renewal.
هيدا اسم اخترعوه، نحن رح ندمره.
The first campaign is Elections Edition for An-Nahar newspaper, which says the election edition is the issue that never was, so the election can be. Reads the case film at the end. I love that phrase. Please tell us about how the idea for this campaign came to life.
Ali, you want to start?
Yeah, I do. It's a really good story, actually, and it's indicative of how collaborative we are at BBDO amongst all departments. Regardless, a good creative idea or an insight can come from anywhere. One morning, I was speaking to our business unit lead, Jad Rabah. He'd just come back from Beirut, and I said, "Look, how are things in Beirut?" And he said, "They're pretty messed up. Everything is broken. Nothing's working." But we might have elections coming up. So I was like, might have elections? What do you mean? You are supposed to have elections. And he said, well, yeah, but they're short of paper and ink. Now they're complaining. Now the government is saying that they don't have paper and ink because you need to buy all these things and they don't have money. And without paper and ink, you can't have an election because you can't have ballots. So now they're talking about postponing the elections. And that was it. It was just a random conversation in an elevator. And, just we went our ways. We did our work during the day. And then later on, we had a brief from An-Nahar about the elections. And for some reason, that conversation and that brief just came together and clicked. And, we were like, wait a second, if you want paper and ink, what's the one thing a newspaper has a lot of? It's paper and ink. So what if we just gave that to the Elections Commission and then essentially not print a paper and donate all that paper and ink to hold the elections? And I got to say, so much respect for the client. You take an idea like this usually to a brand and say, we don't want you to release your product. Most brands would be like, are you out of your mind? But these guys, they have skin in the game. They are in it for Lebanon, and they were like, let's do it. We will do it. We will give our paper and ink. So and Joe obviously was an integral part of all of this because he helped make all of this stuff on ground happen and directed all the stuff. So he'd be able to give you some really good insights as well.
For sure. It all depends if you have more questions on this, because yes, this is how the idea initiated, but then that was the main challenge, is how not really to convince them not to release their product, but just coming up with this idea and of course this idea has been winning across, and how a piece of print can win without even exist, right?
Existing, yeah.
It was not there. So I think that is definitely the main idea, the core of the idea. It wasn't there, and yet it had a huge impact on the society, on the brand, and on the people, because it really guaranteed that the election will take place, and it took place actually.
And the fact that there was politics involved, was it like something that made it more complicated or not really? I guess so, right?
No, of course. You need to put yourself in the context of Lebanon, So I live in Beirut. I witnessed all, the demonstration that were happening against the ruling authority that has been here for more than 30 years now. And of course, coming up with an idea like this to defy the government and just to tell them, like, you can stop here. And we're proceeding with the elections because this is the actual rights of the population, right? To do that. And mind you that the parliamentary core has been extending their terms for 3 consecutive terms. So and when the elections came about, they were like, who needs election? Why do we need elections? We're comfortable here in our seats. So and that's why a brand like An-Nahar, it was very obvious for the brand to stand up and say no. Like, you have excuses about paper and ink. Here's your paper and ink. Let's go on with the elections. Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. And let's talk about the second campaign, which is Schoolgirls Newscasters for EBM. So please tell us about how you came up with the idea for this one.
So this was from a brief as well on raising. It was essentially started off as raising awareness on girls' education in Pakistan, which has a lot of complex layers. Pakistan is a very complicated country when it comes to women's rights, and especially when it comes to girls' education. And a lot of this idea stemmed from actually researching the problem at hand. The problem at hand being the fact that there's a mentality issue. Mentality issue being that what's the point of educating young girls? They're not going to be able to do anything big anyways with that. And that's literally in a large segment of the society. Beyond just the financial implications, there's a socioeconomic, beyond just socioeconomic, there's a cultural issue that is hard set. And once we identified that, the easy question that came out of it was, well, what can we do to disprove that mentality? What can we show We started off with this campaign actually came out of a series of works. There was one in which we had young girls read the declaration, the Human Rights Declaration, in which every child has a right to education, which Pakistan is a signatory to. When we got to this point of asking the question, well, we will get young girls to tell people that they should go to school, but what's the largest platform that we do it on? And then it was automatic. We're like, let's do the news. Let's broadcast the news. So Atiya can give some more insights about how we actually made it happen as well.
Yeah, you are absolutely right, Ali, that Pakistan is a very complex culture, and there is still, so just to give you an idea, when insurance companies sell insurance plans for your sons, they will sell you an education plan. But for your daughters, they will sell you a wedding plan. So it's actually, the products are named like that. And this is across insurance companies and bank assurance. Everywhere it's like, you have a daughter now, so you should be, investing money. So make sure that she gets married off. And it's a mentality problem. It's actually a cultural problem where, advertising can help solve that. And with EBM, who are the largest Pakistani biscuit manufacturer and FMCG company in Pakistan. It's a very unicorn company because so the father who built the company has 4 daughters, and he didn't have a son. And his wife, their mother, was very hell-bent on educating her daughters, right? And so she made sure that all of her daughters are highly educated, and it doesn't matter if she doesn't have a son. And now the current CEO, she's actually a doctor, who practiced medicine for about 30 odd years, and then she took over the company. So they've built a school in their mother's name, and their mom sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But it shows that as a family, they have seen that how educating your girls can change that. So this is at the ethos of the company for a very long. Like, they've been supporting girls' education by building schools, by donating to schools. And what they had done, interestingly, was to sort of put an embargo that we will not give your school any money unless the enrollment for girls is 50% in every class. And what that did was that it's the school's responsibility to go and talk to parents and make them understand. And they're doing these neighborhood activities by bringing parents to the school. And we wanted to show a success story, what happens when your girls are educated, So a lot of Women's Day campaigns in Pakistan are very preachy, that I can do this and I can do that. And you show always working women. But what happens to the confidence of these little girls who go to school and who can read? And that's when this newscaster idea, when it came up, that just, have them read the news. So when they can read the news, then they can read anything, and they would know their rights, and they would read. So it's actually the foundation of their confidence. And that's what we were most surprised about when we were shooting it, because we were worried that these girls might be nervous. But they had such confidence. It was, it was a joy to watch them sitting and getting their makeup done and their braids done, and then reading from the teleprompter. And so, it just goes to show that in real life, rather than preaching to parents that you should send your girls to school, why not show them? And it was just, and show and not tell kind of an idea.
And talking about the girls, how did you do the casting? How did you choose them?
It was hard, but we reached out to the schools, which we are partnering with, and these girls are from the government school. So they wear the blue uniform, which is standard across government schools in Pakistan. And then we asked the teachers who are someone who's good at reading, of course, at that level. And there a lot of monitors came up in you have a class monitor who are already used to leading and being bossy in the class. And then we asked them to do, read a piece of paper and look into the camera straight and all that. So that's how casting was done remotely, because it's a challenge to bring these girls to the studio again and sending them back, because they need chaperones and you need consent from parents and all that. So we did a couple of rounds of just asking the parents or the teachers to record them with their phone. And then we brought in the final ones in the studio. It was shot in the studio with the TV cameras. So no other cameras involved. It was like an actual news set. The news director was there. The producer had given them the earpieces so he could talk to them. And it was all that like 100% real. There was no separate cameras or anything else coming in.
Oh, that's cool. They must have loved it. I would have loved to do that.
The girls did, surely, but it was indeed a challenge. The biggest challenge was the other newsroom team who wanted us to leave their studio. So they're like, finish, leave already.
And you know, I mean, Pakistan is a country where there's breaking news like every 30 seconds, something has broken. So they're like, what if something happens while you're shooting this?
Yeah, you just have to wait. This is much more important.
Yeah, but try telling that to a news producer who has a couple of breaking news and he has to manage his ratings. And so that was, I think, the biggest challenge, to convince them to calm down and let the girls do their job. And again, the girls surprised us. They were not bowing down to the pressure. They were happy and smiling, and they were like, yeah, we can do this. So that was very heartwarming to watch.
I can imagine. And last but not least, we have the campaign Despair No More for Tena, from the age of despair to the age of renewal. Please tell us how you came up with the idea for this campaign.
Okay, so this campaign is also, it's a great example of how the idea falls out of the insight. And we were working with our partners at AMB BBDO on an SAT brief. And just within that, researching on the background on Saudi culture and just general culture in the Middle East, we came across this nugget that said that there is no actual word for menopause in Arabic used in Saudi Arabia. It's a phrase, and the phrase was age of despair. Of course, it's horrible. It's a very ugly phrase, but it's there because a lot of it has been directed by men, right? It's centuries of women who reach a point where they're deemed to have lived their usefulness now, and now it's the age of despair because you've got menopause. And we said, okay, well, that's a huge problem. The decision was to rather talk about that particular aspect of culture than the product. The product was continence pads, which is a very sensitive product to talk about. Menopause itself is very sensitive to talk about in the culture of Saudi Arabia, let alone incontinence pads. And what we said was, we're going to focus on this problem. We're going to try to fix this problem. And the idea fell out of it, really. There wasn't much to push forward beyond that, which was that we were going to let women decide what they call menopause, what they would like to call menopause. It's their right, it's their lives. And women should be the ones deciding that. So we set out this social call. We got some influencers who talked about destroying this phrase, age of despair, and all sorts of content was made around that. We had a UGC component where we asked women to contribute, and not only from Saudi Arabia, but regionally. We got like thousands of responses of all sorts of suggestions on how to change this phrase to something more positive. And eventually we landed at age of renewal, which is a lovely phrase itself, decided by women altogether. And then we pushed for it to be included in the Arabic dictionary, which it eventually did. The UN endorsed it. It was a really massive campaign that erupted from this initial seed of a thought. It did wonders for the product as well. Of course, the brand itself became the top seller in its category. And just, I use it as a great example of how you can benefit your brand by not even talking about the brand itself, by actually focusing on another problem that the brand is helping fix. And that's essentially, if you even go back to thinking about what we did with An-Nahar, we actually were not trying to sell the product. We were trying to solve the problem. With EBM schoolgirl newscasters, there's nothing about EBM in there. It was more about the problem itself that ended up benefiting the brand. And we've seen that across where these acts go a much longer way than just focusing and talking about the product itself. So Tena was a great example of this. It was a really lovely example of how that worked out wonderfully.
It's definitely campaigns that go beyond just selling the product, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk about, purpose versus commerce, and I think we do a lot of both. I just think that when you talk about purpose, especially in a region that has so many tension points, the Middle East has tremendous amounts of complications, Pakistan does, and if we tend to just focus in on some things where people resonate with that solution, we've seen the results are spectacular, not only from the perspective of doing well for the brand, but also for solving the problem.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a curse or it's a blessing to work in a region like this, as you're saying, Ali. So definitely yes. I mean, it's only obvious for brands to embrace a higher purpose, right? Because actually, I mean, the truth is that people are suffering in so many parts of this world, and it's only natural for brands to stand with people and try to offer them a product that means more than just, the useful aspect of that product, but try to give them a narrative that can empower them in so many ways, so they can continue their life and live it in a better way, right? So yeah, that's the malediction that eventually we're trying to find solutions for.
Yeah, sometimes when you have harder obstacles, you have to get more creative, right?
Yes, that's the only way.
Yeah, that's the only way. I agree with Atiya. I think and sometimes that obstacle is a brief that doesn't have much of a budget, and has a huge goal. And whenever I love it when we get something like that, because you can go back to the client and say, well, you don't have much money, but you want loud noise, so you got to do something really big, and that eventually is a blessing for sure.
Yeah.
And I think also more than a blessing, maybe it's also a responsibility, because we live in a region where there is a lot of apathy from the people who are supposed to be running the countries, right? I mean, the governments are not doing their job. There's no governance. There's no government. Then the companies and the brands do take this, responsibility and this helm, and they take it forward. For instance, like in Pakistan, it's a huge young population, right? They say that 50% of our people are less than 25 years old, right? That's what their age is. And the amount of money of the GDP, the percentage of GDP that we spend on education is less than 2%. And so who's going to talk about it, right? I mean, the brands and the organizations who are staying in the country, who are, who their bread and butter is here, their brick and mortar is here, have to take this responsibility and, face the challenges head on and do their part in it, because the success of the country and the nation is, directly proportional to the success of their business and their brands.
Exactly. And that's the power actually of the private sector that is doing so much for the country versus a government or any authority.
Yeah.
And what projects are you working on that you can tell us about? I know sometimes you can't tell about those, but is there something you can tell us?
Yeah, look, we have a few very big things planned for this year, for the remainder of this year, and for next year as well. We actually just launched something 3 days ago, which is pretty big. And this was a brief from a government entity in Pakistan, which wanted to do something for its, last year there were some very horrible floods that happened in Pakistan. It was incredible. Like one province, about 70% of the province was underwater. It devastated lives, and I think more than 2 million homes were destroyed because these homes are traditionally mud huts and villages. So these guys are helping them rebuild towns, and they said, look, we want to collect donations. We have a donation website. How can we get more people to come to this donation website and contribute so that we build more homes for these people? And we give them a very simple idea, which they actually made happen. They named a town. It's the first town in the world that's named after the donation website. So the name itself of the website is the name of the town. It's climatechangetown.pk. You can find it on Google Maps. It's there. You can hyperlink, you go to it, you make a donation. And they just launched it at COP28. The government of Pakistan's Ministry of Climate Change just launched it at COP28 2 days ago. So we're very excited about that, because the project is incredible. It's the largest rehabilitation or rebuilding program in the world. and it has a special focus on women because women get disproportionately affected in disasters, especially climate disasters. So they're in a place where people were living in mud huts on land they didn't own. Now, for the first time, women are going to have land deeds of their own brick and mortar house. I mean, it's completely transformative. This is real change, and we're really, really, really happy to be proud to be part of this.
And last questions to wrap up. What do you wish for Impact BBDO for 2024 for your agencies?
I would say just more happiness for everybody, whatever brings you purpose and happiness. I think if I firmly believe that happy people make the best work, and I hope that everybody at BBDO does find that happiness in the work they create, and the purpose that they find, and the time they spend, and the people they work with. That would be my wish.
Same
Joe?
here. Yeah, I think I wish for BBDO more impact in 2024. That's for sure. And actually a peaceful and blessed region, right? So we can just continue and carry on our mission and impact the world positively and make people's lives a bit easier and better every day. So that's it.
Yeah, I think Ali said it really well about the happiness and the meaningfulness that we find in the work. My wish would be, echoing the same things, but less troubles coming towards us in terms of calamities and the political disturbances that we find, which stops great work from happening because of the uncertainties in the market. So for all of Impact BBDO, my prayer is more for political stability, climate, nothing that impacts it in terms of climate change and no natural disasters. So because we already have so many problems to solve in this region, we don't need more problems in 2020. Let's just solve the one that we have.
Okay, so let's hope for the best. Let's hope for a great year, and wishing you all the best, and hope you come up with cool campaigns like the ones we had this year from you. So congratulations again, and thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.